Last time on Dragon's Balls Reek. I looked at the colorful and kid-friendly film by the beloved Studio Ghibli. It was a fun little romp, though I wouldn't go throwing it on again personally. This time, we're looking at the highly adult, definitely not for kids film about cats animated in Germany, where the beer is good and the showers are lethal. Oh, but that's not fair. They've also got great sausages. No, but there was a lot of money spent on this film. Like $5 million US equivalent. Damn, and this is their most expensive animated film to date, making Americans look even more wasteful in comparison. Here's the interesting part, though. I couldn't get a copy to rip this time. Yeah, had to rip one off YouTube. Why? Because Amazon and company run like $300 for this piece of plastic. Is it really that good? Well, I guess that's what we're here to find out. But okay, what even is this thing? Well, based on the book by the same name, this time not within another film, Felidae was released in 1994 and boasted incredible animation. Now, since I normally don't compare movies to their source material in cases like this, I'll leave you to read them and decide if the film's faithful or not. Because regardless, for $300, this thing had better be the godfather of animated films, do my dishes, and make my dick 7 inches longer. No, I don't hold it against the movie that is overpriced, it's just a joke, but I will hold it against it if it really sucks. So, how about we take a look at the movie that makes Watership Down look like a pup named Scooby-Doo? Let's watch Felidae. We begin with narration from our main character, a somewhat cynical house cat named Francis, as he and his owner are checking out their new pad.
There's nothing I hate more than moving. My good-natured, mentally defective friend couldn't care less about that.
Hey, judge humans however harshly you want. At least they don't lick their own assholes. Most of them, anyway. Upon nearly finishing the tour, Francis happens upon this delightful fellow named Bluebeard and a dead body.
I guess you're new on the block. You taking over that shit heap in there? Interesting place. I go in there for a piss occasionally.
I bet they'll become best friends. Also, he's not the killer. Not a red herring either. I guess Francis didn't find him suspicious at all, despite the fact that he was standing over the dead body. Bluebeard already seems to think the murder was committed by a human, or as he refers to them, can openers. However, Francis is quick to point out that the throat is slashed, not cut, proposing another cat may have done it. But enough about that murder stuff and a mystery. We cut to later, as Francis returns home from a trip we don't get to see. He notices there used to be a plate or something on the front door, suggesting his home was once a doctor's office. Inside, Francis nestles in for a rest to some classical music. Because he's an introspective detective type, and a cat can't drink, so he's got to have one of the cliches of the Sherlock character. And he has a nightmare about an evil doctor and what exactly went down in his house. Well, now that I've effectively changed my pants and tested negative for drugs in my system, let's continue. I do think it's worth nitpicking that the stream kind of ruins the 2 seconds of mystery they built up about the house. Upon waking, Francis finds Bluebeard has snuck in to urinate on him while he sleeps. Nah, just kidding. There's been another murder. Francis already deduces it's a male and asks Bluebeard if he can see the body. Bluebeard agrees, and he also drops this little gem out of nowhere.
I've had more babes in my time than Henry VIII.
What an interesting time to drop this. When else would you drop info like that? So tell me about yourself, Mr. Bluebeard. I'm experienced in organization and criminal investigation, so I've seen the worst. Oh, and I've had more babes in my time than Henry VIII. I see. You think this will be valuable as a daycare teacher? Wait, it's night already? How far is this body? I know cats take long naps, but he slept through the entire night. It was morning when Bluebeard came to get him. By the time they reach the body, it'll be noon tomorrow. On the way, Francis and Bluebeard bump into a Saturday morning cartoon villain and his goons. Holy shit. He speaks like Tommy Wiseau is rigorously trying to possess his body. They narrowly avoid having to fight the big cat named Kong, who vows that he and Francis will fight at a later time. Upon finding the body, Francis once again deduces quickly what happened.
The murderer attacked Purple outside. That's obvious from the blood in the garden. Somehow he managed to crawl in here. Didn't you tell me that Purple was too old to be interested in sex?
That's right, so what?
But take a whiff. Purple had gotten very excited when he was killed. The obvious thing that ties the two stiffs I've seen together is sex.
Okay, we're not even 15 minutes into this movie and we have had 2 murders, allusion to sex and homosexuality. This sure ain't the Aristocats. Though Bluebeard insists it's a human killer, Francis points out teeth and claw marks and asks Bluebeard to help him get to know the neighborhood cats to find the culprit. Bluebeard agrees to help him by putting him in contact with someone who can help him in his investigation. Francis returns home late and, without the sounds of music and the blissful ignorance of sleep, it almost sounds like a religious cult is committing mass suicide in his attic. Oh, God!
Those who believe in him will know truth, and the chosen shall know his blessings and mercy. Save us, Lord.
What I was watching wasn't exactly a scene out of the Aristocats.
Hey, that was my joke. So, after interrupting the group, who clearly found out that there's a God's Not Dead 3, Francis is chased through the attic laboratory and out the rooftops. He's eventually cornered only to fall through a skylight and wind up in someone else's house.
You're new in the neighborhood, aren't you?
Yes, that's right.
Sorry, he just fell through your ceiling. Didn't you mean, who are you and what are you doing in my fucking house? This is Felicity. She's calm, intelligent, and actually kind of interesting. Felicity's blind but desires to see the world as others do. She says she sees things despite her lack of sight, referencing experiments possibly performed on her when she was young. Just as well, she's the first witness to the crimes Francis has found, as she heard everything go down with her almost superhuman hearing. She believes it's not murder, but sex gone too far, as every one of the victims sounded sexually excited before death and was talking to someone with a great conviction in his voice. After hearing all this, Francis leaves to discuss the cult with its least crazy member, Bluebeard, who reveals to him that it's mostly harmless, just sick thrills. Okay, I get we're supposed to kind of think maybe Bluebeard's a suspect, but they're making it too likely. It's going to be the person with little to no past, a good motive, and who wasn't around for the killings. Cause see, Bluebeard was there for the first murder, which would make it too obvious, and happened to know where the others were. So they've got to be trying to make you suspect him to some degree. I ain't buying it though. Anyway, he tells Francis how the cult worships Claudandus, this mortar figure who supposedly died long ago. The cult is led by this guy from earlier named Joker. He gets about as much screen time. Bluebeard takes Francis to meet the intelligent and reclusive Pascal, who can actually work a computer and has been collecting the names, age, sex, and species of every cat on the... He did it. Yep, him. He's compiled data on the cats. He looks kind of evil. Okay, so maybe I'm jumping to conclusions. We'll give it time. After all, he's only got a list of all the victims, including one he was just informed about, and Francis only met an hour ago.
Felicity!
Yes. Felicity, I'm afraid.
Aw, no! Damn it, I liked her. Fuck.
What I was watching wasn't exactly a scene out of the Aristocats.
So, fueled by Felicity's death and ruling out that the killer was targeting victims of the same genus or sex, Francis vows to work even harder to find the killer. Then we get more nightmare fuel in the form of a dream.
Francis!
This is grotesque, horrifying, and awesome. And very well animated. Bravo.
The solution to the riddle is actually very simple. It's in the word Felidae. Evolution has created an astounding number of various creatures. Not one, however, deserves the respect and wonder that Felidae has earned. Do not forget the message of Claudandus.
Yep, it's Pascal. This is exactly what Pascal said, and Father Mortis here is repeating it as the words of Claudandus, the mortar everyone worships who might still be alive, as we find out later. After waking up, Francis goes for a little hunt to clear his head. While trying to pin some mice and kill them, probably some kind of statement or something that I can't be fucked to look into, Francis inadvertently shoves a tape into a fully functioning VCR that's just lying in the basement, and somehow this also turns on the TV. What's on these tapes, you ask? Huh. No, but of course, it's just the exposition that further incriminates Pascal and shows what really happened, both to Claudandus and in the attic of Francis's house. A mad doctor named Proterius put many local strays through horrible testing, which melted skulls and killed all the subjects, all in the name of evil progress. When they find a cat that survives the process, the doctor names him Claudandus and all seems well. Until the funding is cut, Claudandus is deformed and used as the only remaining test subject, and Claudandus kills the doctor and escapes. Question. Who filmed, edited, and stored all these away? Some of these are shot while the doctor's on screen, plus much of it's edited down with narration over it like it's a documentary. And the owner didn't think a working VHS player and TV were worth selling or putting upstairs? Or did he seriously not know his basement had them down there? Regardless, it seems Francis isn't the only one hunting in his basement. Kong, clearly having won his battle with the demon possessing him earlier, returns to finish off Francis. He taunts Francis by saying that he's the killer, but despite being a member of a cult and not being around for the killings, Francis doesn't seem to buy it. The two have a good long chase to pad the runtime and build suspense, only to end with the group happening upon the body of the next victim, Kong's mate Solitaire. He becomes enraged and belligerent, and a rustling in the bushes nearby produces a witness and potential culprit. After hopping over a wall, Kong and his goons chase after the mysterious cat, ultimately though he deceived them and was hiding. As he sneaks into a drain pipe nearby, Francis follows him, falling down a hole. He's soon followed by Bluebeard, who, I guess, didn't notice the giant hole in the ground. At least when Francis fell in, it was covered. Come on, Bluebeard. Further down the tunnel, the pair comes to a crypt of sorts, riddled with cat skeletons and corpses. They come across this guy. He's apparently a self-proclaimed guardian of the dead who's been cleaning up after the murderer because the voice of a prophet came from the tunnels and told them to do so. He was one of the original test subjects, if what I gather is correct, and Joker brought him down here to live with him and teach him before he left to go preach. Again, this would all be very interesting and muddy the waters as to who the murderer is, what with the murders starting shortly after Joker left the crypt to preach, if it weren't for the fact that what's-his-face here clearly separates the prophet who told him to hide the bodies and Joker, so I think it's still gotta be Pascal. He was Claudandus. Just not sure why he wants everyone dead. Hell, as Tales from the Kit here tells us, apparently many of the victims were pregnant. So, Francis and Bluebeard abscond the lair of disease and odor, and Francis ponders while Bluebeard gripes about food. I know I haven't mentioned it much, but their characters have become very stagnant. Francis is the holy righteous detective, Bluebeard is the gruff elder type, and they both bicker and slowly piece things together at a somewhat lagging pace. Sorry if this is sounding a bit offensive, but it's all very sluggish and disinteresting at this point. There's even another dream sequence, this time where Francis meets a heavenly figure calling itself Felidae. Can something break this pattern before it drags the movie down? Did two cats just fuck in my video? In an animated movie? Oh my furry deity. This feisty little thing, a cat of indeterminable species that speaks in riddles, is named, you figure it out. Anyway, after fucking, Francis goes inside and falls asleep. Again. I get cats nap a lot, I do, but how many fucking times do you need to see it? In this movie, sleeping progresses the story. Bluebeard pokes fun at Francis for his little distraction, but upon hearing about her look and type, Bluebeard mentions that there's a whole lot more like her in the district, and they just started cropping up recently. Okay, I'm a bit interested again, finally. Even if I'm right, now I want to know what exactly Pascal's plan is. So, Francis goes to visit Pascal while Bluebeard visits Joker, and while Francis and Pascal talk, I'm pretty certain by his calling the killer complicated, having this deep understanding of the killer and how he wants his messages interpreted, and just his overall creepy vibe, that he's the killer. Bluebeard returns and relays to Pascal and Francis that Joker's fled, as his house was seemingly empty, and Pascal says they can work on figuring all this out tomorrow. As they leave, Bluebeard lets Francis know how he might be in danger of being killed because he's so hot on the killer's trail. As for Pascal,
He isn't gonna be around that much longer. He's got stomach cancer. They've given him 6 months.
I wonder what it's like for a cat in this world to get cancer. I mean, they have humans to compare their lifespans to, and if I were them, I'd be pretty pissed if someone got to live 6 times longer than me and then I got my life cut in half. So, they hold a meeting to tell the local cats what they know about the murders and to gather any remaining evidence and testimonies, where a small kitten reveals that she's the great-granddaughter of Joker, and apparently Joker told her that Claudandus is alive. Yeah, he's alive, so it's him. It's Pascal. I know I'm a broken record at this point, but come on. The mystery is at least half of the interest here, and it's as easy to solve as a Rubik's Cube fresh out of the box. Francis and Bluebeard, seeing as Joker knows so much about Claudandus, go to double-check his home and see if he really did run away. They find him, however, and it seems as though he's been killed. Actually, not just killed, but as Francis deduces, this was not a murder, but rather Joker let Claudandus execute him.
This killing wasn't like the others. It had been an execution. Joker hadn't even struggled. He'd consented to it.
I know animals have strong senses of smell, can pick up on emotions easier, and so on, but what the hell is this? How can Francis come to this conclusion from a distant look at a body through a snowy glass window? Then again, he gets clues from dreams like he thinks he's in Balto, so I guess I'll just move on. While at home, Francis decides to do some research as he draws a connection between the wild breed of cat that he dicked earlier and the murders, and by doing so, Hang on, you can read, fluently? I know that Bluebeard mentioned reading a book earlier, but Francis, you were surprised that Pascal could comprehend and work a computer. I mean, if you can just somehow learn to read without training, pick up on sophisticated language, and understand human science, I'd think basic mouse movement and clicking a mouse would be simple. Through reading a book on genetics, we see the pastor in Francis's dreams was actually the father of genetics, Gregor Mendel. Also, he finally realizes Claudendus' plan.
We're being bred back to our origins.
We're being what?
Proud, dangerous Felidae. And who reveres Mendel and has a huge picture of him hanging on his wall?
Francis concludes that because of the picture of Mendel on Pascal's owner's wall, among the countless other reasons, it's almost certainly him. And since we've only got about 6 minutes left, I'm just going to do the I was right dance and move on. As Francis goes upstairs to check on Pascal, or Claudendus, he's actually downstairs incapacitating Bluebeard. When Francis and Pascal finally confront one another, Claudendus reveals himself and begins calmly admitting to what he's done, telling him that he feels Francis is a worthy successor to his work for when he dies of cancer. So you know he's righteous and was possibly in love with, or at least very close with Felicity, who you killed, and referred multiple times to the murderer, you, as a monster, so maybe there's cancer in your brain too because this does not make any fucking sense. You know he'll never say yes. And of course, Francis proclaims he'll never continue Claudendus' work and attempts to, having never used a computer before in his life, delete every file Claudendus created, which won't do anything. He's a killer with a vast knowledge of genetics and manipulative tactics. Delete him. His files are worthless. All you're doing is giving him a window to... Yeah, that. He'll do that. Francis and Claudandy have a catfight. No, not that kind. And Francis disembowels him.
The horror, so much pain, darkness. You look at me now, and all you see, Francis, is evil. Yet once I was good.
Wow. I mean, it's not very deep, but he was tortured and surrounded by evil every day of his life. This could potentially be almost heartbreaking. If not for the fact that most of this movie was so mishandled and the characters were...
Taking over that shit heap?
Your victims this shit?
You goddamn know all. We used to call it screwing. Who the hell's Zeeble? Screwed themselves?
Smartass.
Asshole.
Bastard!
Asshole on a shithead. Damn it, I'm getting too old for this bullshit.
Almost over, let's wrap this up. Francis saves Bluebeard, the place catches fire due to knocking over the world's most flammable computer, and Francis leaves us with this gem.
Don't give up on the idea of a world in which all animals and people can live together. Perhaps we all need to evolve, to grow a bit more. Maybe we all need to grow into Felidae.
Before going off to get sweet noogie from that feral feline from before, whose entire existence is thanks to a murderous maniac with a hatred for humans trying to breed his kind back to their glory days before domestication. Felidae was bad. Now, I'm not saying this doesn't have any good aspects. Obviously, everything does. It is a decent lead. For some of the beginning, the mystery had my attention, and the animation is very nice, when it's not been rendered through a potato like my version. But for as good as those things are, the mystery was easy, and the voices, save for Pascal, Francis, and Felicity, were either grating, unfitting, or... that. The mystery should be one of the most important parts of the mystery story, right? So when it's so easy and leaves you with just the characters, the most interesting of them being killed off early on, and all they do is curse like this was a shitty anime dub from the 90s.
Get lost. You wouldn't recognize a goddamn vampire if one jumped up and bit you on the end of your fucking dick.
I can't give this one a pass. Whereas I enjoyed watching The Cat Returns all the way through the first time, this one was more of a struggle and ironically came off more childish, due to the language feeling like it was trying too hard to be adult. It's never addressed, so can I ask why Francis has these prophetic dreams? If you don't include Felidae, there's only 2 dream sequences, the one earlier and this one, but he's not psychic and magic isn't real in this movie, or at least as far as we know. And it's not like all this is just his brain working stuff out either. This is divining information in a world that doesn't openly say any of that stuff is real. It's small so I can let it slide, but it does bother me a bit. Seems like a cheap way of letting the audience get hints, and ironically those hints kind of gave too much away. If you're at all a fan of animation, then I recommend giving it a watch, if only to see the well-crafted visuals and the character designs. Otherwise, cover this shit with kitty litter and forget about it. Cheers, guys. Guys, 26 subscribers. Thank you. Thank you so much. Whew, I never thought I would get that far. I thought I would get like 5 subscribers and then quit videos about 2 or 3 in, but I mean, other than the breaks I've been taking due to technical issues, needed to fix my microphone and, going through some stuff recently, but we're back on schedule now for real. And, it's 26 subscribers. I'm going to come off very rambly, but I've got to say, that's, wow. Thank you so much to everybody who subscribed and everybody who stuck around, and hopefully will continue to stick around. And, okay, so, I guess I'll see you guys next time, and thank you once again, and a million times more.